Good morning, y'all, and happy game day. What is going on? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com. Matt Scalisi joining me, also with AL.com, hanging out in the kiddo's bedroom
That's
as we
right.
get ready for another Alabama football pregame show. Alabama coming off a win over Tennessee. Meanwhile, Mississippi State, their opponent this week, coming off a bye week and 3 straight losses. So we're going to talk a little Alabama football. We're going to go down the list. One thing you're most excited about today, big poses, and we'll wrap it up with one bold prediction. So, Matt, we'll start off the top. What is one thing you are most excited to see today from Alabama? And I have a feeling we might be on the same page, but I'll see where you're going with this one.
Well, I definitely think that Alabama's offense is going to have an interesting challenge on their hands without Jalen Waddle. We'll get into that in the second category here, I think. But I'm excited to see if Alabama's defense can continue on the pace that they've been and continue to improve. I think they've been on a really positive trajectory and have been getting better every week. Now they're going to play against a team that is really a lot less imposing in terms of their offense than a lot of the teams Alabama's played so far. So they should be in a position to have some success here. There could be, look, you have to expect that everybody who's playing Alabama saves all their best tricks and everything they've got up their sleeve for this game. But I think Alabama's defense should have a huge advantage going into this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I will start off the top. We talk about Jalen Waddle. So here's the deal. I don't want to use the word excited here because obviously an injury to Jalen Waddle is detrimental. It's devastating for him. I know it's devastating for his teammates. So I'm going to say I'm interested in seeing who steps up in Jalen Waddle's place. He broke his ankle, obviously, in that opening game against Tennessee, which is wild when you think about it because the same thing happened last year when Tua went down against Tennessee. And so 2 big injuries against Tennessee have now happened to 2 of the most prominent players on the team. But yeah, so Nick Saban this week, it was interesting. I really love the comments that Nick Saban made. He said, you can't replace Jalen Waddle in terms of what his ability is. It's no different than losing Allen Iverson, a guy that scores 30 to 40 points in a game. He's that kind of impact player. So you bring up Slade Bolden, and I know we talked about this in the pregame show last week that you were excited to see who stepped up, and you thought we were going to see a 4th receiver, and you were absolutely right. Obviously, not under the conditions that it ended up happening, but Slade Bolden stepped up, and I think it's interesting because Nick Saban wanted to point out in that aspect too that while Jalen Waddle is out, we can't put those expectations on Slade Bolden to replace Jalen Waddle. But I'm excited to see Slade Bolden, see what he can do to fill in that spot. And then I'm also excited to see Javon Baker. He got a lot of praise this week. He's a young guy, great catch radius. Nick Saban said a good physical player. But the key here will be just needing to get game reps, building that confidence. And so I'm really excited to see sort of how he steps up as well and see how much playing time we'll see from him amongst the other receivers in the group. So that brings us to our next question. The biggest challenge Mississippi State poses is ...
So, I mean, all you got to do is look at the SEC defensive rankings and see that that's the biggest challenge that Mississippi State poses is they have a really good defense, statistically at least anyway. They've been at the top of the rankings in yards allowed per game, in particularly passing yards allowed per game. Now, I have a pretty strong feeling that any team that has not played Alabama yet is probably going to have some elevated defensive statistics in the SEC. Alabama or Ole Miss. I think it seems like once you play Alabama or Ole Miss, all of your defensive statistic rankings start to plummet. It's bad for your rankings defensively, but give them credit for what they've done so far. They have really limited their opponents so far. They gave up a lot of points and yards to LSU, but they won that game. That's actually the only game they won. So they have done a good job of, on that side of the ball, making plays, forcing turnovers, limiting opponents. And so I think Alabama, in their first game without one of their key weapons, they're going to have to play one of the best defenses in the league. And I think that's an interesting challenge. And I think probably one that Nick Saban is maybe at least part of him is happy that his team is going to have to get over this hump of playing without Jalen Waddle against a legitimate challenge. His team has to take this game seriously. Doesn't matter what Mississippi State's record is. They're going out there against a good defense, and you're going to have to find ways to move the ball. You're going to have to find ways to move it through the air, particularly against the best passing defense in the SEC. Now, part of me also thinks that because of that, we're going to see Alabama rely a little bit more on the run today to open things up for them. There will be opportunities there. And I think that Najee Harris, both as a rusher and as a guy catching the ball out of the backfield, is going to be a pretty key component for this offense today. I think we could see Najee continue to have a huge game and continue on this amazing pace that he's been on this season.
Yeah, so you mentioned Mississippi State. They lead the SEC in total defense. They allow just under 300 yards per game. So they're also really good at defending the run. So I think it will be interesting. I'm looking forward to that matchup to see how much, success and efficiency that Najee Harris does have on the ground running the football. And you mentioned the Bulldogs, they get off to a big start in the season. They score 44 on LSU in the season opener, and then they've only scored a total of 30 points the rest of the season again in their other 3 games. So, I think that, this Mississippi State team obviously doesn't come in locked and loaded with maybe the talent that, to match up toe for toe with Alabama. But one thing that Nick Saban talked about this week was, he liked Alabama's defense. They got off the field on third downs. They improved the run game or the run stops. But they did allow too many big plays, and that's been something they've emphasized, that Nick Saban's emphasized. Right now, Alabama's given up 21 plays of 20-plus yards this year, and so that's something he is honing in on. So it'd be interesting. I'm interested to see if Mississippi State is able to stymie some of those big plays. I'm sorry, not Mississippi State. I'm interested if Alabama is able to keep Mississippi State from throwing some big plays, but the quarterback situation is interesting at Mississippi State right now. We actually don't quite know who we're going to see at the quarterback position, and will it be KJ Costello, or will it be Will Rogers getting his first start?
And Lauren, not to mention, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that there's quite a lot of uncertainty going on at Mississippi State right now. They've had kind of a really eventful week off the field that could really impact what we see on the field today for them. They've obviously lost the guy that was probably unanimously considered their best offensive player coming into the season anyway. He has left the program reportedly after being suspended a couple of weeks ago. They also had 3 other guys announced this week that they are entering the portal. So you're without Kylan Hill, without a question, your best offensive weapon. You're also without 3 other guys who are contributors. And I would say even if they're not contributors, it's potentially a sign that there's some things that are not going well within the program. If you have a lot of guys leaving mid-season and jumping ship, this kind of thing happens sometimes in the first year of a new head coach. Guys don't always get along and they're not always feeling it. But mid-season, I would say that's maybe a sign of some unrest happening. And whether we see that erupt on the sidelines or in game, that would certainly, I would say, be something to watch for in this game today.
Yeah, and I definitely think that makes it a unique dynamic because, in talking to the coaches and really just sort of the landscape of college football, keep in mind this is a freebie year for everyone. And so, when you do have some of that turmoil or maybe some things going on, it might be a lot easier for a player to say, whether it's opting out of the season or really just more or less saying, I'm going to put my name in the transfer portal because things are a little bit different this year. You can come back and play next year. And so, that kind of makes things interesting and, probably is weighing on the decisions as well. Okay, we're going to wrap this thing up. Bold prediction, and I'll go first. I'm going to go, I think it's safe to say we're going to see a healthy dose of Bryce Young in this one at quarterback. And maybe, just maybe, my bold prediction is we will see him get his first touchdown for the Crimson Tide. Last week, he was so close.
Very close.
Played Bolden. But nevertheless, I think we might see a Bryce Young touchdown today, which, would be pretty cool.
I think there's a good chance of that. We'll see. We'll see how the early part of the game goes. I'm going to go with a prediction that our producer chided me for not being bold enough. So maybe I'll let him push me on it a little bit. But I said I think Najee Harris gets 4 touchdowns today. Some of those might be a mix of receiving and rushing, but I think he's going to be a huge part of the game plan coming into today. Take some of the pressure off the rest of the receiving core and feed Najee. Wear Mississippi State out. They have a really good defense, but if you get them into the third and fourth quarter and they feel like they've been on the field all day getting punched in the mouth, wear them out. Take away the thing that they do best. And Najee's a great way to do that. I'll let Patrick, our producer, push me into saying we get 5 touchdowns from Najee today. Not unheard of for Najee, and I think we will see. I'll let him push me to 5 and make it bolder.
Ooh, I love it. All right, and guess what? Everyone here on the feed, wishing Nick Saban a happy birthday. We would like to do the same. Happy 69th birthday to Alabama head football coach Nick Saban. What's up, coach? Happy birthday. I'm not going to sing, but I will tell you, it was funny. I was doing head-to-head earlier this week with Mike McCoy, former Alabama receiver. And he's like, how old is Nick Saban? He's got to be in his 70s now. And I was like, no, he's actually just turning 69. He was like, there's no way. That dude has literally just stood still in like the time warp or whatever. So, yeah. That's just Nick Saban. He's aged very well. Let's just say that. And, a big happy birthday to Nick Saban, and hopefully Alabama gets out with a win. I'd say I don't love to make predictions about, that, but, I think there's a good chance that Alabama gets out with a win. Nick Saban can celebrate his birthday on a high note, and, it's all good.
How about I predict that all of our viewers who are watching right now will have their experience of watching Alabama versus Mississippi State interrupted multiple times by trick-or-treaters tonight. So apologies in advance for that part of your evening. But be nice to those kids. It's a rough year. Everybody's just looking for a good time tonight. Be nice to trick-or-treaters, even if they're interrupting your football.
No doubt about it. Hey, Matt, I have a confession to make. I trick-or-treated all the way up until I was 21 years old, a senior at Rutgers University. Does that surprise you?
This does not surprise me, given your feelings about candy, Lauren. I think you were just in it for the candy. I don't even think it was about costumes for you.
Hey, well, I will tell you, the best part about it is that most of the time when like the big kids show up, everyone gets real, here's one piece, you get one piece. At Rutgers, they said, hold on a sec. They walked to another candy bowl and brought around the king size candy bars. So they actually embraced.
You found the hack, yeah.
They embraced us. So it was pretty good stuff. But Matty Ice, we appreciate you as always. Game kicks off at 6:00, right, on ESPN. And looking forward to it. And everyone out there, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll check back with you real soon.